Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Karen Rohrer, and I am your worship associate this morning. Before we begin, I'd like everybody to understand that we are a welcoming community. We are ADA compliant. We have gender-neutral restrooms, and if you need to get up and move around a little during the ceremony, that's fine. We are a welcoming community with gender-neutral, Our urban community is located on the ancestral lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Maya, and Shawnee people. We welcome all with love. We support learning and spiritual growth, serve our wider community, and work for justice, equity, and inclusion. We are glad you are here with us this morning, either in person or virtually. During the service, you may hear of programs or other things of interest. It may raise questions for you. If you would like to learn more about these events, ask questions about our community and our faith, please contact us as member-care@firstuu.com. We light the chalice, the symbol of our faith, with these words written by Chaim Stern. For the times when I could have made peace with my neighbor, but picked a quarrel instead, forgive me. And forgive me too for the times when I could have accepted with grace an offering of friendship or reconciliation, but did not choose to listen. At times, in my willfulness, I may have closed my heart to the possibility of a healing word. Today and tomorrow, let my heart be opened. Now join us in singing our vision song. There is supposed to be words on the screen. Oh, we do have the words on the screen. Thank you, tech people. Here we go. Seeking and working for justice, gently transforming lives through deeds great and small, young and old, merry meaning and friendship, we joyfully offer our vision to all. Now, my favorite part of the service, please turn and greet your neighbors. as you can probably tell, we really do kind of like each other, but if everybody could sit back down, I think it's time to move on. We are now going to do Meredith's Story for All Ages. And as you can tell, we've been having trouble with the tech this morning, so cross your fingers.
The Hardest Word. A Yom Kippur Story by Jacqueline Jules. Illustrated by Catherine Yanis Khan. A long, long time ago, the world had many large and fabulous creatures. One of those creatures was a giant yellow bird with dark red wings and a purple forehead. He was called the Ziz. The Ziz was so huge that when he spread out his wings, he blocked the sun, as if he were a dark rain cloud. Every time he flew over a town, all the mothers would call to their children, "Come inside quickly, before it rains!" This made the big Ziz sad. He loved children and didn't want to spoil their playtime. So the Ziz started flying around at night when no one would notice that he made the sky dark with his gigantic wings. That worked fine for a while. Then, one night, the big Ziz flew too high and he bumped into a star. Sizzle, snap, bang! The star fell out of the sky and down to the earth. It burned a big hole in the ground. The next morning, when the Ziz saw the big hole, he was worried. "What can I do to cover this hole?" he asked himself. He thought about it for a while and came up with an idea. He stretched out his huge wings and went back up into the sky. This time, he knocked down a cloud. Plop! The cloud was full of rain, and it filled the big hole with water. Now the big hole was a lovely pond, perfect for swimming. All the children came running to the pond, screaming with delight. It was a hot, sunny day, and they had a wonderful time splashing and playing in the water. "That mistake is all fixed," the Ziz smiled. One day, however, the Ziz made a mistake he could not fix. It was the week before Yom Kippur. He was flying along, not watching where he was going, and he flew smack into the tallest pine tree in the world. Boom! The tree fell over and knocked over another tree. That tree knocked down another tree, and that tree fell on the vegetable garden behind the synagogue. Smash! Squash! Oops! Oh no! The Ziz covered his eyes with his big wings. Not the vegetable garden! It belongs to the children! The Ziz covered his eyes to look at the damage. The tomatoes, the corn, the pumpkins, the beans, the gourds, the squash, all the vegetables the children had worked so hard to plant were smashed to bits. "I can't knock down a cloud and fix this," the Ziz cried. The Ziz flew home and sat on his own garden to think. He had watched the children plant their vegetable garden. Every year they harvested the fruit to decorate their sukkah. What will the children do this year? The Ziz spread out his big wings and flew off to have a chat with God. The Ziz had a special place where he liked to talk to God. It was Mount Sinai. The Ziz was so huge that when he stood on Mount Sinai, his purple feathered head reached right up into heaven. "What have you done this time?" God asked as soon as he saw the Ziz. This was not the first time the Ziz had come to Mount Sinai after making a mistake. "I knocked over a big tree. It knocked over another tree. That tree smashed a vegetable garden." "The children's garden?" God asked. "Yes," the Ziz admitted, hanging his head. "That's a problem," God said. "I can't knock down a cloud and make this better." "No, you can't," God agreed. "What should I do?" "I want you to do something for me," God said. "Anything," the Ziz promised. "I want you to search the earth and bring back the hardest word." "The hardest word?" the Ziz questioned. "Yes," God answered. "Now go." The Ziz stretched his big wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching the whole day, the Ziz stopped to rest at the edge of a forest. In a little house nearby, he heard a mother and child arguing. "I don't want to go to bed," the little boy said. "You need your rest," the mother said. "I'm not tired," the little boy cried. "Good night," the mother said firmly, closing the door. "That's it!" Ziz flapped his wings. "The hardest word! I found it!" Ziz flew as fast as he could to Mount Sinai. With great excitement, he put his bird feet down on the top and poked his purple feathered head up into heaven. "I found it! I found the hardest word!" "What is it?" asked God. "It's good night. Every child hates that word." Ziz did a dance right on top of Mount Sinai. He loved being right. "Good night is a hard word for children," God agreed. "I knew it! I knew it!" Ziz danced. "But there is another word, even harder," God said. "There is?" Ziz slumped over, disappointed. "There is," God declared. "Go and find it." So the Ziz spread out his mighty wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching all day, Ziz stopped at a big feast on the grounds of the castle. He listened. With so many people talking, he felt sure someone would say the hardest word. "I'm hungry," a little girl said to her mother. "May I have some paschetti, please?" The mother smiled. "Oh, you want spaghetti." "That's it," Ziz realized. "I've got it now." He spread out his great big wings and flew back to Mount Sinai. He planted his bird feet on the mountaintop and poked his purple feathered head into heaven. "I know the hardest word," he sang. "What is it?" God asked. "It's spaghetti." Ziz hopped up and down on one foot. Standing still was hard, especially when he was excited. Spaghetti is a hard word to say, God agreed. Didn't I tell you? Ziz hopped more. But there is another word, even harder, God said. There is. Ziz slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared. Go out and find it. The Ziz stretched his big wings and went back out to search. He flew over mountains. He flew over trees. He flew over valleys. He flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. The Ziz searched for 3 more days. He brought back lots of words to Mount Sinai. Words like rock, rhinoceros, ridiculous, and Rumpelstiltskin. Each time, God sent the Ziz back out to find another word. By the evening of Yom Kippur, the Ziz had brought over 100 words to Mount Sinai. God had not accepted any of them. The Ziz was discouraged. He had tried and tried. He flew back to Mount Sinai to have one more discussion with God. What word did you bring this time? God asked. No word, the Ziz said quietly. No word? God asked. No, the Ziz said sadly. I've come to say I'm sorry. I can't find the hardest word. You can't? God asked. No, the Ziz shook his head. I'm sorry. You're sorry? God asked. Yes, Ziz nodded his big purple head. I'm sorry. Good job, God said. You found the hardest word. I did? Now the Ziz was confused. Yes, God said. The hardest word is sorry. While all the words you brought me were hard, sorry is the hardest. I always say I'm sorry on Yom Kippur, the Ziz said. Well, you should say it other times too, God answered. Like when I smashed the garden? Ziz asked. That's right, God said. The Ziz thanked God and pulled his purple feathered head out of heaven. Then he spread out his great big wings and flew back to the children's garden. On the way, he stopped at his own garden and gathered a big basket of fruits and vegetables for the children. It was time to say the hardest word. I wonder, who do you need to say sorry to?
And we are now going to sing. First, thank you, Meredith. That was lovely. I appreciate that. We are now going to sing our children off to class. Hopefully. Go now in peace, go now in peace. Let the love of God surround you every day. Now you may smoke. Go now in peace, go now in peace. Let the love of God surround you everywhere you may go. Each month, we designate one of our Sunday plate collections to benefit a special cause or service organization. This month, our beneficiary is the Shiloh Food Pantry. The original food pantry was started in 1953 by the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church of Avondale. Our church has partnered with them for over 15 years. The pantry is located and serves many residents in Avondale, but we never close our doors to anybody. Anybody who comes, we give food to. We have over 1,400 households registered with 3,500 people. Donations will be used to support the purchase of food for the Thanksgiving Day distribution. And also, we need some glass-fronted freezers and refrigerators as we move over to the pantry, what is that called? The choice food pantry, where people can choose their own food. Please make checks payable to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati with Shiloh in the line, in the memo line. Or you may also send your donations through Breeze, or text GIVE to 513-717-7373. Your donations will be greatly appreciated, and we are passing the plate in-house. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Barry Green and Jira Cox, we are so lucky to have such wonderful musicians to play for us. They're now going to play Kol Nidra, and as we start discussing Yom Kippur, it is a traditional Yom Kippur prayer. Good morning again. I'd kind of like to reintroduce myself. My name is Karen Rohrer. I am a member of this congregation for 12, 13 years, and I am a Jewish Unitarian Universalist. Notice I was raised in the Reform tradition until I was 17 years old and left for college. I have not attended a synagogue regularly since then. But I want you to notice that I said Reform. There are many different sects within Judaism, just as there are in Protestantism. Some of the selections that I will read would be debated by other Judaic scholars, but I am not a Judaic scholar, and neither is Mary, who will speak after me. We are not rabbis. This is not a Yom Kippur service. I just want to share with you my feelings about these most important Jewish high holy days. Thank you, Jira. I could not have done that. It's like, did you hear the shofar? This is a ram's horn that is blown like a trumpet at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah and the end of Yom Kippur, signaling the opening and closing of the 10 days of awe, the most important days in the Jewish calendar. Sounding the shofar makes us attentive to our imperfections in our world and reminds us to look inward and to strive to be the best that we can be in the coming year. I'd like to read a selection by Larry Goldman called Days of Awe, the Birthday of Humility. Although usually rendered as the Jewish New Year, the Hebrew words Rosh Hashanah literally mean head of the year. At first glance, this seems odd, since the holiday falls in the lunar month of Tishri, which is the 7th day of the year, not the 1st. This is merely one of the mysteries of this most sacred of Jewish holy days. What then do we celebrate on Rosh Hashanah? According to Jewish tradition, Rosh Hashanah is the day on which God created Adam. Now, here's where most Jewish scholars would disagree. They would say Rosh Hashanah is the day that God created earth. The Hebrew word for human is Adam. Rosh Hashanah, in other words, is the birthday of humanity. It is a celebration of life itself. Now, it's no small matter to celebrate the birthday of humanity. Not the sort of thing one can do adequately with cake and ice cream. Although sweets, such as apples dipped in honey, are an important part of our celebration. The occasion is at once so solemn and so joyous that it has generated a multitude of rituals, from the prayers and melodies heard in the synagogue only on the high holy days, like the Kol Nidra, to the beautiful Tashlich service, in which we ritually cast away our bread crumbs into a stream, and of course the joyous family gatherings, especially the festive dinners before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Oops. It is a distinct holiday, does not stand alone. Rather, it is like a sentinel standing watch over a month of Jewish celebration and reflection, which begins with the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. We call these 10 days the days of awe because of the awesome burden we feel, both individually and collectively, to atone for our misdeeds, to make peace with our brothers and sisters, and then to face God's judgment. Jewish tradition holds that the gates of heaven close as the sun goes down on Yom Kippur. For on that day, that our fate is sealed at that awesome moment. That is why we fast on Yom Kippur, for on that day we are concerned solely with the fate of our soul. If Yom Kippur is called the Day of Atonement, what exactly are we atoning for? We are atoning for all of the sins that we have committed in the previous year. There are two types of sin. One type is the sin against God. Perhaps we did not keep the Sabbath holy, or broke the dietary laws, or broke a vow. It is particularly important to atone for these sins during times of strife and hardship, such as the Spanish Inquisition, when Jews were forced to convert to Catholicism. This prayer is important because we take our vows seriously, even when we are coerced into breaking them. But there is another list: sins against others. To be forgiven for the sins you have committed against other people, you have to first seek reconciliation with that person. You must also attempt to right the wrongs that you have committed, just like the big bird gave his vegetables to the children. That must all be done before the evening of Yom Kippur, because that is the time that God closes the book of life for the year. This refers to God as a judge who judges us based on our treatment of others. Religious Jews fast since physical rituals help us find meaning in our holy days. Fasting observed on this day to purify ourselves from our misdeeds. But fasting is not enough. The prophet Isaiah rebukes the people for fasting when they do not also strive to improve themselves. As Isaiah's message is to take care of those who are vulnerable in our society, to seek justice for all people, and to free the oppressed. Yom Kippur is not only the Day of Atonement, it is also the day of forgiveness. Leading up to Yom Kippur, it is customary to seek forgiveness from those you have hurt, intentionally or unintentionally. It is also time to grant forgiveness to others. I'm going to ask Nick Payne to come up and sing the Shema, the most holy of prayers, because it reminds us that God is one and that, here we go. It's the Shema Yisrael, which is the central affirmation of Judaism. The prayer expresses belief in the singularity of God, that is, in God's oneness and incomparability.
There's two lines that I'm going to sing. Speak in the right place? Yes. Two lines I'm going to sing. The first line is Shema Yisrael, O Israel, listen. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, God of gods, God is the one. I'll sing that and then I'll explain this second line. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The second line, Baruch Shemoch Tov Malketu Eloi. I'll sing it. It says, God, the kingdom of God is forever and ever. Baruch Shemoch Tov Malchuto Yolam Vaed.
Good morning. My name is Mary Tarbell-Green. This is bright. And I am the co-worship associate. My husband Barry is Jewish, so I'm Jewish. And my grandson calls me Rabbi Marmar. So there you go. But we want to qualify, we want to qualify that even though I have a lot of experience, this is not a Jewish per se service, and so we're trying to be as mindful as possible about what we do in honor of the Jewish tradition of Yom Kippur. The Shema is beautiful, and it's sung by a cantor, and it's a prayer and a lament, and so thank you so much, Nick. I also want to thank my husband Barry Green and Jera, and the tech people who have struggled all morning to make this possible, Sally and Dave. They had some real obstacles, and they made it happen, so thank you so much. Ritual is a part of everything that we do, how we roll out of bed in the morning, how we drink or don't drink our coffee, walk the dog, go to church on Sunday, are greeted when we walk in the door, we light the chalice, and we greet our neighbor. Every tradition has rituals. They're touchstones where we do our work and where we get inspired. Yom Kippur has deep and abiding rituals. I wanted to set this was given to me in seminary by the director of my program. So this is a talit, which is worn during all services, but in particular Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the yarmulke, and of course fire and light, the kol nidre, the shofar. For one to do their deep and abiding work and help provide a foundation, we need to rest in the temple of our familiar, and these are temples of familiar for Jewish services during the 10 days of awe. Scripture readings, our own UU 7 principles are part of our ritual, our practice, and we'll include them here today. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, dignity, compassion in all human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement of our spiritual growth, which is what today is about. In our culture, it's my house, it's my car, it's my neighborhood, and it's my church. The spirit of Yom Kippur is a we. We gather together, we atone, we reflect, we see our part. As reflected in the UU principles, the first three of which, this inherent worth and dignity is for everyone. Justice, equity, compassion is our principle, and acceptance of one another is what we encourage for spiritual growth. So the UU principles are the our and the we in the me, and that's what makes it so luscious. As we explore Yom Kippur, we explore our spiritual growth and compassion in how we act in the community, in the world, how we align and practice in our principles, how we clean our plate of our actions, our misgivings, our judgments, our foibles, and our missteps. Today we explore what atonement is, making right our mistakes or flaws or misconceptions, and beginning to become honest with ourselves, admitting our part and beginning to nurture and forgive, the forgiving of others and the forgiving of ourselves. I want to reflect on forgiveness and compassion. I was brought up in the Catholic tradition, reciting the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others. And as a kid, I just stuck on the part that said, we forgive others. The greater focus was on me forgiving you. How did I sin and what do I have to do? That's what stuck for me. I didn't absorb the grace of forgiving myself, or God forbid, having compassion for myself. Yet, truth be told, I cannot forgive you or have compassion for you without me admitting my part in my judgments and my reactions, and again, forgiving myself. Again, it's a both and. It's the we and the us and the me. Forgiving myself always, in all ways, as I forgive you, is the act of atonement. At one meant. That's a tall order. The purpose of Yom Kippur is providing service, a platform, an environment where these practices and teachings become explicit. And who knows, it may be just for today, maybe just for now, I can admit, atone, and ask to be forgiven and do my forgiving. However, Yom Kippur can become a template which allows for the admitting, asking for forgiveness, and forgiving. We explore our narrative, the story that we tell ourselves about things that are wrong. And what's the truth and what's the story we tell ourselves over and over again about something that happened? Pema Chodron is quoted as saying, "The truth you believe and cling to makes you unavailable to hear anything new." So in Yom Kippur, the tradition is the contracts, the slate is clean, void for the entire year. So literally, in the true Yom Kippur tradition, we're done. We can move on. So it's the spirit of this allowing us to move forward, to create living amends, freeing to do our UU social justice work, our standing on the side of love, our open heart connections, our Shiloh kitchen ministry, volunteering at the Avondale School, restorative circles, get out the vote, sending birthday and healing cards. Whatever it is that you choose to be a part of, we are living out the atonement and the amends made. Admittedly, some of our atonement is imperfect and clumsy and fraught with missteps and fraught with vulnerability. Yet the idea, this charge that we can and do practice a Yom Kippur day of atonement becomes a living intention on our part to live out our principles, our covenant, to be kind today or 4 days or 4 weeks or 4 months by doing and being and practicing a fresh start, a clearer conscience, a stronger heart with fuller intentions. Reverend James Ishmael is a UU minister emeritus. He was in Providence, Rhode Island. He's now in Los Angeles. He's written a number of books on Zen. And he started his Yom Kippur service citing a Leonard Cohen song, "A crack in everything, that's how the light gets in." It's hard to flush out old steps and old missteps. It's hard to hold them up to the light, flinch a little, sigh, especially when the process we are called to look at is our part in that holding it up to the light. When it's something we feel that's done to us, there's a spiritual axiom in the study of the 10th step in Alcoholics Anonymous that invites every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with us. And I'm like, what? Really? Seriously? You cut in front of me and that's me? Well, let me just tell you a little story. So, don't tell Barry this. Don't tell Barry what I'm about to tell you. So, we had our anniversary Friday night, 38 years. 38 years, we've been together 40 years. If I've told him 1,000 times to turn off the lights, really. I was raised by my stepfather, Fran. He was raised during the Depression. He's very frugal. The only thing I'm asking Barry to do is turn off the light, for God's sake. He never remembers to do it. So he's on his way to fixing us breakfast, making my coffee, but he's not turning off the light. So, who reacts? Who gets upset? Who, may I ask, is suffering? Who has the expectations? Who has the judgment? Who carries the angst and the frustration toward him? Who is creating the tension? That, my friends, is the wrong within me. That is my part. So Yom Kippur is... Boy, am I going to hear about this when I get home. All the lights are going to be on. Yom Kippur is that. I mean, it may seem like a silly, kind of silly, innocuous example, but really it's a part of all of us that come from inside. And so this time is a time for us to reflect on those innocuous things, on our cracks, on our recognition of them, admitting our atonement for them, and in the Jewish tradition of Yom Kippur, our sins will then be cleansed. And so that we may start a new year and move to our good works and be the good people that we are. As a hospice chaplain, when I would enter a home or a hospital room, I would pause before everyone in the room or the door, and I would hand sanitize. Well, first of all, we have to do it. But spiritually, I would do it to really focus on my intention. What was I walking into? What was I entering? What were my hopes? And certainly my assumptions about what, maybe I had read the notes. And so this is for me to cleanse all of that, my expectations, so that I can go in and do what my ministry is to do, and to meet people where they are, not where I think they should be. So today is all about that. This Yom Kippur is all about us to sort of hand sanitize our misdeeds and our offenses, our misgivings, our grievances, our expectations, and approach our next steps open-hearted, full-hearted, and strong-hearted. Sometimes, the simple act of listening, just your simple presence, is the gift of gifts. In my theology, it's sacramental. So the principles of free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right conscience and use of the democratic process congregationally and beyond, the goal of the world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all, and the respect for the interdependence of all. That's us. Francis of Assisi said, start by doing what is necessary, then do what is possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible. Forgiveness and reconciliation. The Olympic gymnast who falls off the beam gets right back on again. She doesn't stand there and go, oh my God, I can't get... No, she gets right back on again. That's her spiritual practice. And she's practiced that. It's in her bones and her cells. And so in our lives, when there are missteps, large or small, sins, if you will, against someone's character, with our judgment or gossip, or snarkiness when our loved one won't turn off the lights, rebellion, mean-spirited, vindictive, or what we think is just a puny little side remark, large or small, Yom Kippur is a time for us to swallow, take a breath, confess, admit, acknowledge, and forgive. It's the organic, movable feast of livable feasts of atonements. And this, my dear friend, is the invitation of Yom Kippur out loud in our hearts. The me and the we of our hearts. Yom Kippur allows us to hold our woundedness up to the light and find joy and begin to forgive and to appreciate our limitations. For as Reverend Ford said, look at our hearts with relentless honesty. We find the crack, we find the light, we catch ourselves, that sense of unity, the fire of love, and then we reach out to another. That's the secret of Yom Kippur. That's the promise of an authentic spiritual life. That is what we call this beautiful, sad, joyful world standing in the sight of love. So, return to your courageous heart, ignite love, compassion, strength. Let forgiveness flow as we heal and become healed toward our wholeness. And may we say Amen. So I'm going to end with some closing words that are kind of like a meditation. So I'd like you to put things down and feel comfortable. Take a deep breath. You know me, take a deep breath. And you can close your eyes or you can just lower your eyes, whatever you feel comfortable doing. This is a meditation on forgiveness. All of our lives, we have been told to seek that which is good, to turn our faces from dark to the light, toward beauty and toward truth. But the truth is, the world is not always good. The light we seek casts shadows, and there is brokenness amid the beauty. And there is brokenness amid the beauty. Our world is far from perfect, and so are we. We strive to be right relations with one another, but there are times when we're left angry or disappointed, and times when we even anger or disappoint another. Whether it's the harsh words said by a loved one, or the loss of a friendship, or the carelessness of a stranger, or the scars left by childhood, bad things do happen. We cannot seek truth or beauty or light without acknowledging and affirming that which is false, broken, and in the shadows, for all of these exist within as well. So in this moment of silence, remember the wrongs that you have endured, that we have endured, the imperfections that we have perpetrated, that we may forgive them and forgive ourselves, and forgive yet again. And imagine visualizing those wrongs, either to ourselves or to others, thrown into a fire. For like our anger, the flames may burn and destroy, but like our love, the flames also cleanse and purify. Let us undertake the work of forgiving ourselves and each other as we begin again in love. Take a deep breath. We extinguish this candle, not the light of truth or the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And another tradition of Yom Kippur is the most beautiful block prayer.